And then Steve Buscemi like has like a funny line where he's supposedly funny line where he's like, you know, she never told me how old she was, right? So Buscemi is supposed to be this like really smart character. So if he's so fucking smart, why does he? What correlation does the Air Force have with his statutory rape? Right, like because the guy's dressed in full Air Force gear, right? He thinks they send the Air Force to arrest you for statutory rape, right? Then,
why don't you use it? Like, I couldn't figure out why he couldn't use it all the time. And then, like, he threw away that line. He's like, yeah, it drains my chi. And I was like, what? So when you use it, it drains your chi. Well, that's interesting. So basically, if he keeps losing his cool, he'll never really keep his chi to begin with. And he loses his cool a lot. Like the only time the Iron Fist ever comes out is he's in great distress or someone's about to get hurt, and it just kind of like, or when he's meditating or something like that, it comes out. This show is so frustrating. So frustrating.
There's nothing Buddhist about the way that he's Finn Jones has portrayed Danny Rand in this. There's nothing Buddhist about it whatsoever. I'll give you a great example. I'll give you a perfect example, and you're gonna fucking die laughing when I finish this thought. So there's a scene where Claire, the night nurse, is stapling Danny Rand together, right? And he's like screaming like a little bitch. And I'm thinking like, and Claire's the one telling him to calm down or think of something else, right? And I'm like, why is a nurse telling the Iron Fist, who's supposed to be like a Buddhist monk kung fu master, to calm down, right? Like that's not the only time he's done it too. She told him on the plane as well. But then all of a sudden I thought about like, wait a minute, this scene reminds me of something, but the exact opposite. And it reminds me of the scene in Roadhouse where Patrick Swayze is getting fucking his stab wounds stapled together. Yes. And he's like, pain don't hurt. And he takes a breath, and then he centers himself basically before he gets stapled. And he doesn't do anything. And I'm like, holy shit, Patrick Swayze is a better Iron Fist than this guy. Oh. Every time I watch Jurassic Park, I want to punch that girl in the fucking teeth when she turns on the flashlight.
Oh, in the car.
Yeah, I mean, I was closer to her age when this movie came out, and I remember being still as pissed off as I am at 38. And I think even at 38, if she's still like 13 in the movie, I would still punch her in the fucking throat. Like, essentially, the T-Rex like goes away from that car.
Yeah.
Like, completely ignores it, right? And doesn't actually turn back to the car till that dumb bitch turns on the flashlight. Like, you're scot-free. You're fucking scot-free.
Flashes it into the sky, right?
Into the sky, directly into the fucking T-Rex's face, like fucking continent and shit. And like they can't figure out how to turn off a flashlight. How fucking stupid are you?
Well, why did
it's the opposite way of the fucking button you just push to turn it on.
Right? Why didn't they turn it upside down and push it into the ground?
Yeah, or that. Sit up. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, I would have, if I was Timmy, I think that's his name, Timmy, I would have took the fucking light bulb and just fucking bashed it into her fucking head for being so stupid.
Timmy.
I can't, like, that scene just, it made no sense to me. Like, even if your car was attacked by a grizzly bear, which would still be scary as shit, and the grizzly bear is done attacking or even sniffing your car, right? And it's walking away, and then all of a sudden you fucking honk your horn. Yeah, you honk your fucking horn.
No, you're right. The teachers, the negligence that goes on between the teachers and administration,
and that's just Dumbledore. Dumbledore. What about?
He doesn't. How many books does he fuck Harry over?
What about the fact that the first thing that Dumbledore says to all the new students is you can't go into the Forbidden Forest, especially at night. So what happens when fucking Harry gets detention?
He sends him out there.
They go into the fucking woods at night. That's his detention. Not sitting like helping like what the fuck is his name? Who's the groundskeeper? Hagrid.
Finch.
Hagrid.
Okay.
Hagrid.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you're not helping Hagrid just like clean up like dog shit during the day, away from the Forbidden Forest, right? No, your fucking detention is you go in the fucking Forbidden Forest,
right?
How fucking, what the hell is that?
I don't know.
The one place that Dumbledore tells you not to go, that's where you send
That's
the kids.
where you
for
send the
detention.
kids. Yeah. Hey, they're trying to. They're serious.
And how
they're
about
serious
the
about
fact-
the consequences.
And I know Snape has a huge backstory, right? He has. There's a,
We don't know that yet.
but again, teacher negligence, right? He found out that fucking Quirrell was trying to kill a student. A teacher was trying to kill another student, and he doesn't say anything about it.
Nope. He's just like.
He just lets it go.
He's like, all right, go back to your room.
Just lets it go. Again, using the same scenario here. If you found out that there was a teacher trying to kill your kid in the school, and the other teacher was like, "Well, I stopped him."
I stopped him. It's okay.
Yeah, I
don't worry
stopped
about
him.
it.
Don't worry. I'm keeping my eyes on him. And he's still teaching at this fucking school. The fuck is that about?
I don't know, but it's not that far off. It really isn't that far off from the real world.
And so I'm laboring, building what became his sound studio. My first audition, he calls me in and says, okay, they didn't have anything written down and everything was so secret. And he called me into his little studio in San Anselmo. Yeah. And he says, just say the name Elliot. And this is a creature. And he says, this is a creature. Now, this is the first part I didn't get. Okay. So that's how our business is. Yeah. But so I said, Elliot. I'm trying to do kind of creature kind of sounds and say phone home, say be good, and do it in all these different voices. And actually then...
Those are good clues.
Those are, yeah, but I didn't know, but it was, so it turned out. So I still don't know when I go to the screening of E.T. with everybody, and I'm sitting there, and honestly, when E.T. came on and said, I think the first thing he says is Elliot. And I couldn't remember. I told my friend, he had me saying some kid's name, and I can't remember the kid's name. But and then I'm with my friend, right? And when E.T. says, Elliot, I looked around, I went, that was the kid's name. Oh my God, I would have been this creature. That was when I figured out who I almost got.
Who did they get for that? It was a woman,
Deborah
right? Like an older
Winger,
lady?
and a very elderly lady who I'm told Ben Burt heard her asking for a pack of Lucky Strikes. In a and was like, she had that kind of, she was an old smoking lady. She had that, give me some Lucky Strikes.
Get out of the way. I need to buy the pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, right. And then it was like, you're going to be, so she and Deborah Winger was mixed in.
Oh, yeah.
So but Ben, after the screening, it was good. I'll be calling you again. Well, then I got a call. Now I'm still we finished Kerner Company. I'm out at the ranch. I'm back. Yeah. And now, but I've been made an apprentice carpenter now, making a little more and I'm waiting for something to open in production. Ben says, "Why don't you come over and try out?" So he hands me a script. This is crazy. He hands me a script for who was Admiral Akbar. Okay. Okay. So I got so nervous because now he's not just telling me things. I'm looking at the script and he describes this character, and I'm in the studio that I labored, that I built. And when I first got in there, I said, Ben, the studio turned out beautiful. He's like, oh, that's right. You were the laborer on that. Yeah.
Give me the job.
So yeah. So he hands me the Darth Vader. There's Darth Vader. Admiral Akbar. And I started shaking so bad. So badly that I literally couldn't. There was nothing to put the script on, and I'm like this, trying to make my head. And I went, "Oh my God!" And Ben says, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm so nervous. I can't even read the script. I'm shaking so bad." And he's like, "Just relax. It's no big deal. Take your time." And I said, "Okay, well, can I just shake this out? Just kind of get these nerves out." And he's going, "Yeah, do whatever." So I walked away from the mic. And I walked over, and I took the script, and I kind of go, and I walked back over, and I had stopped shaking. And I went, okay, I'm ready. And he comes out from behind his podium, he goes, And he takes the script, and as he's walking away with the script, I really thought I had offended Ben Burt. And I'm like, oh, my God, I just blew this whole audition. He turned around, he looks at me, he goes, you know what you just did over there, that laugh that you were just doing? I said, yeah. And he says, I got a creature that's going to be perfect for. Forget Admiral Akbar. We're just going to do a bunch of that today. And next thing I knew, I was Salacious Crumb. And that's exactly how it happened.
Both those are so iconic. One for the laugh, obviously.
Yeah.
The other one, it's a trap.
It's a trap. Yes. Which ended up, the Admiral Akbar. But yeah, and that's how then I started, it rolled from there. There's a lot that happened in between where I met the monster maker, the creature makers that made Salacious, and then they went to work for Spielberg, and then they were doing Gremlins, and it was said on the set, hey, the Gremlins should have that same kind of laugh that little character with Jabba had. And so then Chris calls me, and you've been asked to work on a Spielberg film. And it was one of those things for me, too. Honestly, I said, you are so full of, why are you playing with me like this? I really thought this is a prank. Yeah, right. They've asked me to come work on a no, really, Mark, you needed, and then it's just, and here I am today.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's just,
oh my gosh.
It's like so there, that's how mine happened.
Man.
Yeah.
And those little stories, I love more than anything.
All right, well, I'll give you an Easter egg then for
Okay.
Attack of the Clones that you won't find on any supplemental thing.
Oh, nice.
So
is this an exclusive?
This is a
Yeah,
true
maybe,
exclusive.
yes.
Okay, awesome. All right.
So I was working on a shot when they shot the stuff with Jar Jar in the films. There, you had the actor. Ahmad was in a Jar Jar costume with like a Jar Jar head up on top of his head and like a visor over his eyes that was mirrored so that people wouldn't look into his eyes. They would look up above that to the Jar Jar head so that you would have the eye lines going to the proper height.
Right.
But of course, you had to remove him from the shots. And I was working on one where I had to remove him from a shot because they were going to actually put in a full CG Jar Jar in there. And it's a scene where Obi-Wan is getting out of an elevator with Anakin on Coruscant, and Jar Jar comes tootling along up to the... I said, oh, Obi-Wan, so good to see you! And he comes running over to him, grabs him, and shakes Obi-Wan's hand vigorously. Well, when you paint something out, you have to paint in what would be there, behind there in the first place. So I had to paint in the folds of Obi-Wan's robe bouncing up and down, which is pretty crazy. But then I also had to, for a couple of frames, I needed a hand, and I had no hand there. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do here, and I was ready to actually get out a camera and just shoot a photo of my own hand in the right angle and everything. So I'm on my lunch break, and I'm just sitting at my desk, and I'm surfing the internet, and I'm looking at some news and everything, and there was a photo of Vice President Al Gore on board Air Force Two doing this weird pose where he's got like his hands out at this odd angle and he's got this kind of like, I don't know, kind of attitude. And I looked at the photo of the hand and I go, that's the exact angle and the exact lighting I need. So I downloaded the photo. I took his hand out of the shot, isolated the hand, stuck it in there over Obi-Wan, so that Al Gore's hand made it onto Obi-Wan. Now you can barely see it because they composited Jar Jar over that.
Right.
But so Al Gore's hand is in there for a few frames. Now here's the spooky part. Al Gore, Ewan McGregor, same birthday.
I can't believe Al Gore's hand is in Star Wars.
Yes.
He might have got elected.
Well, if you would look that up on the internet, which Al Gore invented, you'd know that.
Oh, yeah.
God, that's freaking awesome.
That blows my mind. It's like I have to go watch that
so
scene again.
Awesome.
Although, at the very end of Goldmember, when Fat Bastard showed up and he was all skinny, he's like, my neck looks like a vagina. He's like, he's all eating Subway like Jared. He got all like skinny and shit. Didn't Jared become like a pedophile or some fucking shit?
Yeah, let's not segue into that.
That is sad shit. What a moron. What a golden ticket. You're making millions of dollars off Subway and you like look at child stuff. That's horrible. Fucking dick. Burn in hell. Anyway, I don't know why I went there, but Austin Powers is the anti-Subway, anti-Jared. But
this episode is brought to you by Subway.
Subway.
Jared who?
We don't. Jared who?
That's their tagline.
Yeah, there you go.
You're welcome, Subway.
Yeah. We're never getting any other spokesmodel ever again. Oh God, I think the best like Subway commercial I saw was like in Happy Gilmore. We needed to make that. He needed to make that extra.
That was
money.
when those dumb fucks were still cutting the bread all fucked up.
Oh, I hated that. They cut that little strip off the top.
Yeah, that's why I stopped. Like, I went into, I never knew that they did that, and then I went into a Subway once. I was working, and I was like, oh, this is the only thing here. I didn't want anything else. So the guy gives me the sandwich. I'm like, what are you doing to my bread?
Why aren't
like-
you cutting the bread in half, you dick?
Yeah. I'm like, why are you cutting a triangle out of the top? He's like, that's how we cut it here. I'm like, why? Why? And I don't even. And that was the last time I ate from them.
I hated
until,
it because when you
yeah.
you ate the sandwich, you didn't have a top after like 2 bites.
I mean, seriously, if you didn't cut it into a perfect triangle, like the shit was going everywhere. And, do you remember a commercial, like, from them that says like Subway? Now we're cutting the bread right.
that'd be a great commercial right now. Well, no, that's 20 or 15 years
Well,
too
when
late.
did they
but
start cutting it right? Right.
I don't know because for the longest
I stopped
time I
eating
stopped
because of
going
it.
there.
Yeah.
I just saw the way they cut my bread.
Here's
I
how
was like,
fucking traumatic that is. Here's how traumatic that was to me. I still remember what I bought.
really?
Yeah, it was a grill. It was a chicken. It was a grilled Philly cheesesteak chicken. Chicken cheesesteak.
This shit fell out
Yeah.
like instantly.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't even put.
You have a loaf of bread, and they just sliced a thin layer of the top off, and that's the top. And they put the sandwich on it, and they put the top back on it, and
They
it's
did-
like this little sliver. You're like,
That's as close to anybody trying to reinvent the wheel as you'll ever come.
I mean, Wendy's made square hamburgers, but at least that fucking made sense. Like, I mean, it's different and cool, but
Yeah, because you could put it on. You could put it on white bread.
this it's like, let me fuck up your sandwich.
It's like if you're not Subway because it's like a hoagie roll, and you go to places where there's like a diner where they serve sandwiches like on like 2 pieces of toast.
Yeah.
And instead of putting like the meat and stuff on the inside, they put it on the outside and the bread's on the inside. Like, why'd you do that? Well, that's how we make sandwiches here.
Yeah.
Like that was like the equivalent of Subway saying, "That's how we cut the bread here."
That's how we fuck you. I mean, that's how we cut the bread
Like
here.
that's how we cut the bread here.
That's how we make money
Want to
here.
make something of it? Like that's how we do it here.
That's why we only charge $3.
That's
Now we
why-
charge you $6.
Yeah, 'cause
we're
we
doing
cut
it
the
the
bread
right
right.
way.
Oh my god.
There's a tagline
It's like
for you.
have it like I'm now thinking of like Burger
Have it your
King.
way, but more expensive.
Yeah. It's like Burger King is like have it your way.
Right.
And then like Subway would be like Subway, you're having it my
My
way.
way.
which my way means I'm going to cut a triangle out of the top of your bread and try to convince you that this is everybody in 5 years everybody's going to cut their bread like this.
You had mentioned stories in the panel. You got like so many stories.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to give you the opportunity to give me your favorite George Lucas story. Your personal, like
You
this
mean
happened-
run-ins with George? Or,
yeah,
or-
your favorite like George Lucas that like it cracks you up, or this is something you can't believe because it's it's George Lucas, like something your
Something
favorite.
that
George
probably
Lucas
won't
story.
piss him off, though.
Does that piss him off? Well, I'll start with this one. Like a lot of people in my generations, I was just amazed that I got a call.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to run the panel, but from what you heard from the panel, we all kind of got in differently. Mm-hmm. I got a phone call, and I'm happy to this day that I actually answered the phone. Okay, and
If you had caller ID, you'd be like, I'm not answering
yeah,
that.
but that's just again, that's being prepared
Yeah.
and being at the right place at the right time. So when I was at when I was at ILM, they put us in the screening room and they said, okay, George is going to come through the company now, and he's going to look at everything you've done for Jedi up to that point, and he's got a lot of people. He's real busy. They talked to, and I think it was Tom Smith, but they talked to us kind of like we were children. He's going to come in, have him address you, get in, get out. Don't be overly wordy, and show him what you've done. He's going to ask you, and then on to the next department. So I'm 25 years old. This is my opportunity to meet George Lucas, right? So in walks my boss. Tom Smith was running George's Industrial Light and Magic. In walks, the company photographer, Terry Korsner. In walks Joe Johnson, okay, because they're all reviewing everybody's work. And I was working on the matte painting of the elevator shaft that Darth is going to throw the Emperor down.
Oh,
Right.
You know that final scene.
Awesome
well,
scene.
that's my matte painting. Okay, so I'm a little scared because I'm thinking I've painted it a little too blue, and it was somewhat desaturated, in the film. So I see George, he walks in, and I figure I'm just gonna go for it. I walk up to him and I give him a big bear hug. He goes, "George, so glad to meet you. I'm so happy to work for you." And he like stiffens up,
yeah.
And he just kind of looks at me, and I'm looking at Tom Smith, and he's looking at me like, "I can't believe you're hugging, dude. You're
I
hugging."
can see it in the
George."
movie. I don't care.
Yeah, and so that's the start of my relationship with George. And I would end up. I lived in Marin County. We're sitting at a table with him like this and talking, and frankly, he's a lot more conversational now.
Oh, yeah,
when I
for
see
sure.
him. In fact, we as a company would learn more about George through interviews on the Rolling Stone. In fact, in Rolling Stone magazine, he did an article where he actually says, I'm paraphrasing here, actually kind of shy around my employees. I don't really know how to interact with them. Which was true. You could just tell he just
Maybe he just wasn't comfortable being the boss or something.
Well, his career accelerated. Think about it. Here's a guy who's fairly shy, but's got a lot of ideas, and his career and his title has accelerated from American Graffiti, which was kind of a hit,
was
but with
big,
Star
yeah.
Wars, and then after the success of Star Wars, went zoom. Where
Yeah.
he's now big boss man. And so that's a huge responsibility, and I don't know.
Big time.
I
A lot
don't
of
know-
companies,
I don't
yeah.
know if I would do any better, having it's just like you guys being one day you're here in West Sacramento, next moment you're in New York, you're the biggest thing, and you've got a spot on MSNBC. It's like your income is shot up like that. Now you've got your own green room,
Yeah.
people tapping you,
And then we're,
and now you've got your own publicity.
We're both divorced.
Well,
We're both,
our
have a-
salary right now for this podcast is 0, so anything above 0 is doubling it.
It's almost as like when writers make sequels, they tend to like make the same
Bigger.
movie as the other one, but bigger. It even has the
Yeah.
same beats and everything in it. It's the same. It's exactly the same. So, whatever.
Basically, that was like Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking thing. He just happens to have an uncle in an empty house.
Home Alone 2 and Mummy Returns. Oh, fucking
Home Alone
paint
2 is the
cans
same
hitting
fucking
Brendan
movie.
Fraser in the face.
And then, oh wait, when the cage drops, there's Kevin in the up in the rafters, like recording their voices from that the recording thing that he
You
had in Home Alone 2.
You filthy animals.
Yeah. And then right before The Rock is about to kill Brendan Fraser, Kevin walks up to The Rock or the Scorpion King and gives him like the other white dove that he was supposed to give to that homeless lady.
The high-intensity cardio we have are 6-beat mini fight scenes based off of my experience choreographing fight scenes for some of those bigger movies.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we have these really fun little fight scenes you get to learn.
So now all you got to do is come up with an app for the iPad where you can film with green screen, right? Like film you doing those little action sequences, and then they could see themselves, fighting in the Avengers or Civil War or something like that.
That's you're on the right path, but that's coming up.
So would you say that the workout is a little bit better if you actually cosplayed while doing the workout?
Totally. Absolutely. You know why? Because that's one of our biggest things when we're, and that's not even a joke, when we're talking you through these workouts, we're wanting you to get into the fantasy of the film world. So, you know, most people go to movies to escape, and they sit in a theater and they watch these heroes on the screen, they get empowered, they feel good, but they're sitting still for 2 hours and they're eating popcorn and drinking Coke. So we thought, why can't we bring that empowerment, that excitement, that escape and fantasy into your own living room so that you can be feeling like any superhero, action star, whatever you want while you're working out. So through the workouts, we're giving you little scenarios. Like we have, for example, one move in one of the supersets is kind of like a shoulder bounce, and you have an exercise band around your wrist, and you're pulsing, doing a little shoulder exercise. And we kind of give you little scenarios like, okay, you're a super spy, you're locked in a max prison, and here you go, you're stuck in these cuffs. They're zip tied, you got to break them, you've got 30 seconds, let's do this. So we really do, I say cosplay it up. I mean,
how many sessions do I have to do to be able to do the Black Widow twirling move that you have evolved like crazy?
You know what? I've never taken anyone from 0 to 60 on that one.
I was telling BJ the other day as we were getting ready for this podcast, like I specifically just watched the fight scenes that you were in, trying to figure out which ones were you. And I remember the first time I saw that move, and then it was in Iron Man 2, and then it was again in the Russian scene in the Avengers, but it was a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And then again in Civil War, and it was different again. But every time I've seen you do it on screen, it evolves into something that's more kick-ass. So
yeah,
I can't wait to see what you do in Infinity Wars.
Yeah, you can't just come into a new movie with the
If you're in that movie,
if I happen to do that movie, that probably would be what I would do.
Right, that you can't confirm or deny that you're in that movie.
I have Teen Wolf.
Oh, good one.
Michael J. Fox, when he was like in the heyday, when he was like really popular, he was like Alex P. Keaton, and then he was in Back to the Future, and I think Teen Wolf came out after Back to the Future.
I thought it was before.
Like, how do you follow Back to the Future? Honestly, I don't even know how you.
By turning into a teenage werewolf during a basketball game.
I guess.
And then the best part is like nobody in the theater like screams.
No,
nobody,
they're
like,
just
fucking
everyone's just
the
quiet
fuck out of there.
Yeah, I've been like,
and
you guys forfeit.
you're in a 1980s like all white movie when nobody runs out of the theater. Like I'm Asian, and I would have been fucking fuck this, I'm out of here. That dude just turned into a fucking werewolf.
Where'd you, if you were the captain of the other team, would you be like, you guys need to forfeit? I knew nothing about this.
They kind of just stand there in shock, and that's where the shock ends. Because once he starts dribbling the basketball and he scores, everything's fucking okay.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh shit, that dude can play. Never mind.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Everything's fucking completely okay." That a werewolf just transformed on the basketball court and like scored a basket, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay.
Oh,
let's just keep playing."
I guess that's normal. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. It's okay because you can dribble a basketball. We're safe.
Nobody wanted to cover him. He would have scratched their face off. It was like, forget it.
I mean, like halfway through, like it'd been really funny. Is like everybody's like, in the movie, everybody's cool with him, just turning into a werewolf. And then, like, right before, like, the game ends, he rips, like, the referee's head off. Because they
do it like a bad call and it pisses him off. So he just goes on a rampage.
It just fucking starts killing people.
They're like, it's like double dribble. No, I didn't.
And the same thing with Star Wars too. Like we were just actually, this is how big of a nerds we are. We were just talking about Star Wars before you had, come on. Yeah, before you rang in, and we were talking about Star Wars and how like ridiculous it was about how much training, or I forget the terminology of it. This is why I'm not a writer. That they were calling a character who just happens to just know everything, like Rey did in The Force Awakens.
Mary Sue.
That's right.
She had no training.
Right, but in the movie, if you just take the movie of The Force Awakens versus A New Hope, if you watch the beginning of that movie, who would you actually want to be fighting next to you, because when you first meet Luke, he's kind of just whiny and he's whiny. He's just whiny.
Station.
Yeah, and when you meet Rey, she's a loner. She has to survive in that desert planet, and she beats the crap out of 3 guys on the planet. She proves that she can fight, right? Luke, the only fighting he really does hand-to-hand combat is he fights that like laser droid or the training droid on the Falcon.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so he there's no reason for him to actually be any good at what he does, because he actually has less of what she does.
He has
Yes.
he has no training.
There's
His
no
mentor-
context.
No, his mentor dies, and then he's on the ice planet, and then the next thing he does is pull the lightsaber out of the ground and cut a Wampa's arm
Well, that's an
off.
Empire, but even in
But even then, he had no training.
But even in A New Hope, like, I mean, I guess this is how desperate the rebels were. Like, hey,
Well,
you flew
that's true.
you flew a T-16 Hopper, which is like, hey, I drive a motorcycle, let me fly an F-14.
And that's I try not to get in arguments on Twitter very often because it's usually futile, but
Right.
I felt very strongly about you're calling Rey a Mary Sue, but yet you're not calling Luke or Anakin the same. Like, no. And I pointed out, somebody was like, yeah, but she was like Ace the first time she got in the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, the first time Luke got in an X-Wing, he blew up the biggest battle station, like a spaceship. I'm like, no, does not compute. And they were trying, like, but he was trained by Obi-Wan. And at that point, I realized, oh, this is futile, and I gave up.
Right.
Yeah, well, if he was fighting a room full of, those training droids that fired one laser every 5 minutes, he would have survived. It would have made a lot of sense, But flying an X-wing in a Resistance, when you compare it to, they did it really subtly with Rey. I guess too subtle for the He-Man women haters out there that didn't like what they saw. And I thought like they showed her very resilient. Whereas Luke, he was really whiny. I mean, Who do you want to fight next to? The guy who doesn't want to like put in extra work, or the girl who kicks ass.
Hey, dude, Luke stood on one hand and he lifted rocks. That's
That was an Empire. That was only 3 days of training. we tried to figure out how many days of training. This is the nerd
Because then he
conversation. This
fights
is the major
Vader. He
nerd
doesn't
conversation.
ever use his lightsaber.
Yeah.
Ever, except to cut a Wampa's head
So
off.
let me ask you this. Let me see. I want to say test your nerd cred, but have you ever thought about how much training Luke actually goes through in Empire Strikes Back to fight Vader at the end of that movie?
I haven't tried to quantify it, but it can't be much.
No, because think about the time frame and what happens, right? They're attacked on Hoth.
Right.
He breaks away from the Millennium Falcon to go to Dagobah. So how long do you think that from the time that the Millennium Falcon is chased by the Star Destroyers, get into the asteroid field, and get into Bespin, what do you think, like 3 or 4 days tops?
Oh, if that, yeah.
Okay, so that's how much time frame that Luke has been training with Yoda at the same time. And then if you think about that, like you were saying, like you didn't quantify, but we tried to, and we're thinking like, holy shit, Luke has only trained for 4 days and he thinks he can face Vader.
Come on, dude. Like, that's...
Because he wasn't being
super cocky kid.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Han Solo told him not to be cocky.
It's like that 6-year-old that like you let win in video games and all of a sudden starts talking shit to you.
I want to go compete in the worldwide tournament of whatever this is.
Yeah, exactly.
And then reality sets in. But think about if you actually think about on screen time between the time that the Falcon is breaks away from the Star Destroyers and then they're captured by Vader on Bespin. It's not a lot of time at all, and that's about the same equivalent as Luke has been on Dagobah. So basically, all he's had to do, or all his training to face Vader in that movie, is lift rocks, carry Yoda, and
Fail at getting his X-wing out.
and doing front flips, and that's it. And again, whining too. He whines again. He whines again on Dagobah.
Now, how long does Force Awakens go through? Is like Force Awakens like a day and a half? 2 days?
She doesn't go through any training.
No, what I'm saying is you see her progression though. But you already see that she's a fighter at the beginning. Like you said, like it's established that she can handle herself.
And that's why people also criticize that she was able to get away from Kylo Ren, and it's like, well, we know she can handle herself with a melee weapon, and he was really super injured. So if he wouldn't have been injured, no, that fight would not have gone well for Rey or Finn. It didn't go well for Finn.
Okay, I this one. I remember literally saying "What the fuck" when I saw this movie.
Right out loud. Your parents are like, dude.
No. I was in college when I saw this movie.
Okay, good.
So, it's a movie called City of Angels, and it has Meg Ryan and Nick Cage in it.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Basically, if you don't know the movie, I'll give you a rundown. And I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter if it's spoiled or not because the movie's fucking stupid. And here's why. So it's supposed to tell this story about an angel who is infatuated and starts falling in love with a human woman. Nick Cage and being that person, and Meg Ryan being the woman. And he basically is torn between the love that he has for her and his duty as an angel throughout the whole movie. He finally decides to take the jump, the leap to become human. And him and Meg Ryan had this like great passion at night or whatever, and she wakes up early to go food shopping or doing something, right? She comes back, like he's sleeping. She comes back and she's all happy, like giddy of the romantic night that she just had sex with an angel, basically. and she's on a bike going downhill, and she decides to close her fucking eyes and put her arms out to her side, like, and then just enjoy the sun in the middle of the fucking street. So, like, in real life, the most realistic thing that could possibly happen to you if you did this in real life is you get hit by a fucking car and die. They chose then to be realistic about a movie about an angel who falls in love with a woman. Right? So, that's the time that they decided to be realistic. So, she fucking dies. In the dumbest fucking way possible. And, like, that I could
Cinema
possibly
history.
imagine. Like, pound for pound, the dumbest thing I've ever seen somebody die in a movie. Because, yeah, there's, like, comical ways, like, horror-wise you can die. This was a drama romance movie. And she dies because she closes her eyes riding a bike downhill.
Was she using the force or some shit? Like, what was she doing?
I think she gets hit by a truck, so clearly she's deaf, too.
I don't know. Like, one thing, and we talked about this a lot on the podcast, but like one thing that I always talk about is this idea, like, I know where it's coming from and I know it's like well-meaning, but I hate it when people say that characters just happen to be something, like this character just happens to be Asian or this character just happens to be whatever. And I understand the intent behind that is to say this story is maybe not all about that. It's not a suffering story about, you know, fighting racism or whatever. And certainly the stories that I try to tell are not all about being Asian. But I don't ever write a character that just happens to be something, because I feel like whatever identity you are, it informs all of your experience in small and large ways. And to ignore that is to write a bad character. And I felt like in Ghost in the Shell, they had no understanding of that. They didn't understand that, like, if I suddenly woke up in Scarlett Johansson's body, well, first of all, I would try to do all the athletic things I can't do in my body. But I would also be very, like, there are certain ways that I would be really traumatized, you know, and there are a lot of implications about that. And there are a lot of things that I think a woman of color would feel like waking up in that body, or, you know, or figuring out that that's who they used to be, like they do in the movie. And they were so unaware of that. They didn't understand that. There was no, like, the consciousness in the body could have been anyone. It didn't have to be a Japanese woman. There was no, like, specificity there, except that they cast a Japanese actress as her mother. And as the ladies talked about in the roundtable, didn't, like, you know, had them hug, and it was like, oh, that's not really a thing. Like,
yes, I was thinking about that. Yeah,
there's a part where the Japanese mom, like, just invites, like, Scarlett Johansson into her apartment, and we're like, no, I don't think that would happen. Like, that's super weird.
I looked at IMDb. I don't think a single Japanese person was on the production, like writing or directing, or someone sitting there going like, this is not what would happen. Like, why are we doing this? You know, like,
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
It's very weird, and I don't like. Well, I don't know. Obviously, there were a lot of bad decisions made in that movie, but yeah. So I have seen it, and we talked a lot about that.
That's so funny that was the article. I did not know that you knew those women.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like I'm like, oh, the stereotype is that like all Asian people know each other, and I'm like, no, but I do know. I do like there are 3 of them in the round table. Or 4 of them in the round table. I'm like, I know 3 out of 4 of them, and I know the woman who put it together.
Anytime he hits the button, he doesn't get bigger. He just like
Gets stronger
growls.
or gets-
He just growls and like puffs his chest out, and the green button lights up on his chest. That's basically it. So there's no like other animation to it.
That's terrible. It's just an LED.
Yeah, it's
that
like,
lights
well,
up.
I mean, that started the whole thing. I mean, how many neon lights did he fucking use for Batman and Robin? Like that was like there was lights everywhere. Like instead of actually having ice in the one section where they freeze the museum to open the movie, they just have blue neon lights on the fucking ground.
Yeah, it was that movie was extremely colorful and like fluorescent lighting everywhere, which made
Everybody
no
had
sense.
fluorescent lights.
Yeah, everybody did. And
There was
Poison
one point
Ivy,
where they were at that party, and they were actually like the dancers were like throwing around like or twirling around like I think neon sticks, like basically giant glow sticks.
It's like if J.J. Abrams directed it, there'd just be like those
Lens flares everywhere.
lens flares everywhere.
Like dead at night, and then he looks at the moon, and there's a giant lens flare coming out.
Right, or if John Woo directed Batman and Robin.
There's doves everywhere. It's slow motion and doves.
And if it was Michael Bay, it's just explosions and twirling cameras.
You'd have like Bane's balls in there somewhere as a joke. Some supermodel
Masturbating.
scientist, and some like
masturbating joke with Batman.
like, and then like of course a token black dude has to be in his movies.
Like how many people have slid down your bat pole, Batman?
Yeah,
Like,
just terrible
stupid jokes.
and like
Yeah,
5
anyway.
sunsets. So anyway, you hate that
I
movie.
fucking hate that movie.
I watch it because it's so bad. Like it's like a train wreck. That's basically how I explain it. I mean, I don't like that movie. I don't like it, but I don't hate it because like I leave it on and I just think it's fascinating how fucking awful that movie is. So, Corey, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to any of our podcasts, but anytime we get anybody on, we basically internet stalk the shit out of you. So, like, we look up your name. And by the way, you can curse on this podcast too.
Yeah, all you want.
I internet stalked you, and I came to find out that you played Young Red on that 70s show, which I remember that episode.
I remember that too.
Because it was so freaking cool how spot on you were. Because he's got like a very distinct delivery, and like I love that guy. I was always scared of that guy because I remember watching RoboCop as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So it really, when he was that 70s show father, I was like, oh God, it's that guy from RoboCop who's a real asshole. And,
I
so
remember
different.
him from Dead Poet Society.
As the father,
being that scary dad, and so I was not only terrified just to meet him in general. I was terrified to have to do some half-ass impersonation of him too. So, but I had nothing to worry about because he honestly is the nicest guy on the face of the earth. He's just so tremendously nice.
Did he? Was he able to talk to you after he saw your performance, your imitation of him?
Yeah, I mean, he sort of saw it in the moment during rehearsals, and, I just kind of sheepishly was like, dude, I'm so sorry that I'm doing this. And he was just like, what are you talking about? This is great, So he's super, super sweet. So he was a really great guy to hang out with, yeah.
Did you watch?
Did he ever call you a dumbass?
He may have done it only in good fun.
Did you watch a lot of footage from that 70s show to get it right, or did you watch a bunch of other stuff like RoboCop?
Well, it was in a weird time when there wasn't a lot of stuff immediately available. When I went in for the callback, they gave me, and this should tell you, whereabouts we were in technology. They gave me a video cassette tape to look at, and it was called like The Best of Red, and it was just a series of clips of him. And, so I took this this cassette tape home, and that's what I sort of looked at, and that was kind of it, because it was really the early days of the internet, and I had never seen the show before, and I knew who he was from RoboCop and Dead Poets Society, and I just kind of went on that plus the video cassette tape they gave me.
Well, I remember I was shocked when I saw this. I was like, oh my God, it's the same guy.
Yeah,
I remember that episode vividly, thinking this guy nailed him perfectly because he's so dry.
Well, thanks. I mean, it's just some people can sort of mimic or imitate, and I didn't have a whole lot to do, so I was very glad that I was able to get the part.
So, Princess Bride, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I thought I was going to have a hard time finding a what the fuck moment. It took me 5 minutes.
Seriously?
5 minutes.
That's a near perfect movie.
So, it's right after Columbo. Peter Falk.
Columbo.
What the hell's his name?
Peter Falk?
Yeah.
Is that? I was
Yeah,
like,
Peter Falk.
Peter Falk.
Peter Falk. He
The
comes
crazy-
in.
crazy
He
one-eyed,
comes in
yeah.
and starts to read the story, right? So he's reading the story, and it's whatever her name is, the blonde, right? And she's there.
Princess
and
Buttercup?
No, she's not
Jesus
princess at this
Christ!
time. Yeah, I know. I only needed to see 5 minutes. I didn't get to the name part yet.
Okay.
So they just leave her there, and she just constantly just messes with the farm boy, right? Like, do this, farm boy, do that shit,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And there's no parents around, so clearly she's young, right?
Right.
So what kind of parent are you that you leave a girl there with a guy who she constantly fucks with on a farm where you have, like, weapons?
Like Wesley's gonna pull out a pitchfork and he's
There's
just
no
like,
reason for him to like her. I don't care how good looking you are. There's no fucking reason to fall in love with her. She's a bitch to him.
So you think like he would have like attacked her or like?
I'm just saying when the parents came home from wherever they were, she probably was soil. Because she's a bitch to him.
They're like, farm boy, where's Princess Buttercup? She's like, oh, buried in the berry patch. Like,
And
she told me one too many things to do. Like, fuck. She's like, hey, can you grab this pan that's right here at eye level, like,
yeah.
please?
And then he grabs her like all sexual. Bam! Clearly Wesley is like fucked up in the head, right?
Yeah,
Because he
yeah.
likes this girl who just messes with him, and he thinks like he thinks that's love. That's how messed up he is.
Yeah.
He thinks abuse is love.
It's sexy. It's like sexy. It's dominatrix.
Verbal
you
abuse
know?
is love to
Yeah.
Wesley. 21, 22. I don't remember. I'm not good at math, and I don't really want to realize how old or young I was back then. I was still in college. I know that.
Like I was crushing it back then.
Yeah. Now I'm doing a free podcast. Fuck.
You went backwards.
Yeah. It was all downhill. Now I'm doing a list of movies I watched fucking when I was in college. That's how far I've fallen.
So you obviously had to have Star Wars toys way back in the day.
I did. I've already said I remember ruining Vader.
So a follow-up question. Did you ever make your toys have sex with each other?
I did. I did. But not well, because the toys that I played with, like, they were all boys' toys.
Oh.
You know? So, like, I didn't
So you
do
made
that.
them homosexual.
No, I didn't. No, but my sister had Barbies and
Like
She-Ra.
Vader's like, I'm your father.
No, my sister had Barbies and She-Ra.
Oh, nice.
So
a little lesbian action.
I think we had like Chitara too.
Chitara.
Yeah, there you go.
No, yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, what
That's
a
how
pull.
Lino became a man. In that shit.
All right. Okay, so let's say that there were 2 job openings at Jabba's palace.
Okay.
So you had to pick between the two. There's no other job. Would you rather clean up the Rancor shit in the Rancor pit, or clean out Jabba's bedpan?
Oh, fuck. Can I be in a hazmat suit?
Yeah. No.
Oh, fuck. I feel like it would probably be easier to clean out the Rancor one because I would probably have to use like some kind of lift. Whereas Jabba, I would have to probably do it by hand.
Oh.
So I'm gonna go with the Rancor. I'm thinking Rancor has like a big vehicle that I can, like a small at to get it out.
It's an AT-SHIT.
Yeah.
AT. Yeah.
Ah, shit.
Exactly.
Very, very first trailer for Justice League.
Yeah.
And that was the one where Bruce Wayne, not Batman, Bruce Wayne is in broad daylight on a fucking horse asking people about the Aquaman in broad daylight. And I'm
Right.
thinking, do you know you're Bruce Wayne, right? You know everybody knows who the fuck you are. And you're going around asking about metahumans. Like, aren't people going to think that's fucking weird, especially in the day of the internet where we have, like, you know, Vine videos and Facebook Live and all this shit? Like, nobody's going to Facebook Live this crap. Like, yo, fuck. There's Bruce Wayne in a bar or in a fishing place. And, of course, nobody has a cell phone here for some reason.
Right.
You know, people in, like, the desert probably have cell phones. And these fuckers don't have cell phones to record Bruce Wayne, you know, like... You know, hey,
I thought
fuck,
he
like
would-
the Instagram would be like, hey, Bruce Wayne's in my bar right now, fucking asking about metahumans.
Aquaman is tossing him around the bar. It's
Yeah,
weird.
it's funny. He just came up and riding a wave, like literally riding a wave, not on a
Right.
surfboard.
And his fork has got like 5 prongs on it.
Yeah, hashtag what the fuck.
Yeah. Hashtag this is not a trident.
Yeah, tweet it out
Yeah.
from that bar or wherever the hell they're at. Like, let's call it Sharky Joe's Bait and Beer.
Sharky Joe.
Yeah, and he's got like a Facebook page. So how could he not go Facebook Live with Bruce Wayne? Just like, hey, anybody seen any metahumans around? I'm not Bruce Wayne.
There's like a 1-star Yelp review because someone's like, yeah, I went in there to eat fish sticks and this guy like was beating up Bruce Wayne in the bar. I couldn't eat.
Yeah.
The food came out.
I have no idea what Bruce Wayne was doing in my bar today, but he started some shit.
Yeah. Fucked up my bar and all the patrons.
And somebody tell me what the fuck a metahuman is. Because he wouldn't stop saying it. Bruce Wayne's cheap. He didn't tip me right.
Right. He didn't buy anything. He just
He didn't buy
ruined
anything.
my bar.
He just ordered water. Bruce Wayne ordered water at my bar.
And he left a donkey here.
Why does Bruce Wayne have a fucking donkey?
I don't know. Or a horse.
Or a horse, yeah. Does Bruce Wayne know he's got like many cars that he could have just drove here?
He could have like flew there in the bat copter or whatever.
He could have flew there in his
jet.
private plane or private jet. If he wasn't going to be Batman, why the fuck even hide it? Like, just show up on his yacht or some shit.
Or just show up in the bat jet. Just
Yeah, just
jump out
fucking
as
just
Bruce
jump
Wayne,
out.
Like, hey,
And just have a shirt
hey.
that says, I'm not Batman or Bruce Wayne. Again, if you didn't know that if this was just a normal story with no historical ties to it, it'd be a pretty decent movie. But the
Which
fact
is
that
what they should have done.
well, yeah, I mean, they should have just made up a movie instead of attaching Wonder
Well,
Woman.
they wouldn't even have to make it up. There are plenty of people. You know, the people in the poly world were really upset to find out that it wasn't true. I was going back and forth with a lot of people, like, all over the place. And they were so happy to have this movie come out, and then to find out it wasn't true, they felt like, well, you know, but meanwhile, if it had gone out knowing that it was imaginary, they could have stayed happy. You know?
Right, that's true.
It's like,
yeah.
show people in positive light.
So
that part of it is
wasn't
sad
even
that
true
that's
at all.
taken away. No,
That-
and Graham and Dots weren't lovers. You know, it's like that's the thing that's bad, because it was almost as if I was stuck in that spot of, am I really going to open my mouth about this? Because I don't want to dash people's like dreams and happiness and all this kind of thing. if they just had not done the bit about Wonder Woman's origins, I probably would have just let it go by, you know? Because as far as I'm concerned, like, sex is like, and what if they were gay? And what if there was a big poly thing? So there wasn't, but it doesn't make any real difference in the world. But from the point of view of taking credit away from Graham it's just like so totally unacceptable. And they made both women out to be like less than intriguing humans. It's like, okay, their sex life may have intrigued people, but they weren't very solid.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
What I found crazy, like I said, like I keep alluding to this because we didn't know anything about it. And I thought it was a beautiful love story about these people just caring about each other.
Right.
And it's like almost like finding out that like Romeo and Juliet didn't die the way they did, and they got just hit by like a runaway like horse.
Or no, they didn't really die. They snuck away and they're living somewhere.
Right.
That would be closer to the how far off it is.
Right. And then they both hit puberty.
Yeah.
And realized they didn't like
and
each
then
other.
that happened. Yeah.
And then they didn't like each other, and they got divorced.
Yes.
I want to see that.
And that's
I want to see
story.
that movie. I'd be okay with that.
And it's the true story. You can market it that way.
Exactly.
And then somewhere there, like King Arthur comes out.
Yeah.
There was actually that Clive Owen movie. I don't know if you remember that movie called Arthur, and they said it was like the way that the trailer played. It actually said something to the effect of, you know, the untold true story of King Arthur. I'm like, he's completely made up. That's like saying the untold truth story of Santa Claus. And you're like, wait a minute.
Now that one I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then you would have to go to like what, Coca-Cola for that?
Do they own him now?
Well, that's who created Santa Claus, the way that we see him today.
Oh, the way that we see him. Okay.
Yeah.
This is our new favorite thing this year, but we always look at old movies budgets and then try to compare it to Spawn, which is about to come out sometime. I don't know. But so the budget of this movie was $12 million.
It's $2 million more.
Yeah.
It's $2 million more, and there's a lot of matte paintings in this.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean I think the special effects I think were done by the same people that might have done either like maybe have done American Werewolf in London, because I remember the werewolf changing scenes were pretty good.
Yeah. They weren't bad.
But there's some like really bad like special effects in this movie. Because it's a low budget like film, and again McFarlane thinks he's gonna make a Spawn movie for $10 million, and I'm like, okay, are you gonna see Spawn through an iPad? Like, I don't know how you're gonna do it for $10 million.
Is it an 8-pixel animated movie? Like an 8-bit?
They had to use the same sets over and over again here.
Right.
I mean, the ending of the movie is actually filmed on the same street or the same lot that the intro for the Growing Pains episode is shot.
Yep.
And and it still cost $12 million back in 1987. So that's like $20 million now.
Yeah, probably more.
So for him, imagine this movie and making it, and you saw how bad the special effects were, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to cut. This movie had to have been made for like $6 million to match what McFarlane's gonna do for Spawn. So imagine, look, okay, so again, like outside of the Wolfman changing, there's some cheesy, especially when Dracula changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some cheesy effects here. Now imagine this movie on a $6 million budget.
It would just be like a stick, like, I don't know.
Dracula, you could still see like the tag on
Right.
Dracula's costume from like Target
They had to take it
or
back.
Walmart. That would explain the
Don't get
whole
any
scene.
stains on this.
The whole scene where Sean stabs him in the chest won't happen because they can't put a hole through the shirt because they would have to return it.
Right. right.
Like, no, don't drag him through the ground.
No.
You can't drag him on the ground. Fucking, you're going to ruin the cape. We got to return that shit.
Yeah, Dracula, lift up your cape up. Don't drag it on the ground.
He's like, no, we don't have the budget for teeth. Take these chiclets and cut them.
That's terrible.
The amulet's not an amulet. It's like a fucking glow stick. It's a glow stick that with like because what is it, like two snakes coming out of it? So it's like it's a glow stick with two gummy worms taped to it. To it.
You know, Luke is going to be training Rey, and then like Snoke is going to be training, you know, Kylo or Drago.
Oh, fuck. You just ruined The Last Jedi for me.
If Rey goes to the top of Skellig Island or Octo and goes Drago, you know, or Kylo,
or Kylo,
there's like, oh shit.
There is a 360 shot of that island.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna look over
Drago.
to my left, and I'm like, where'd Vic go? And I'm like, his friend's like, he said this is bullshit and left.
Or I'm just gonna start playing the Rocky montage theme song from Rocky 4.
It's the Eye of the Tiger.
No. It's just a instrumental montage when Drago's getting steroids and shit.
You see
Kylo Ren's gonna get roided up. He's gonna get injected with midi-chlorians.
I got 30,000 now. I got more than Yoda, bitch.
That's great.
He's like
fucking HGH.
He's like he's like using the Force, and the pound per pound inch is like going up.
As he's doing the indoor laps, he's lifting rocks.
Yeah, exactly.
And balancing them.
Tossing them.
Balancing them.
Oh my god, how pissed off would you be? You're like, wait.
And then Rey is dragging around Luke Skywalker on like a sled. And then the next scene is you see Luke, Chewie, and R2 sitting in a wagon, and Rey's got to push press it.
Oh yeah,
like push it above his shoulders. Right. Remember? So she's got to push it above her shoulders, and then she screams. But she doesn't scream like normal. She screams, and then her lips move over to the right like Rocky does. With the speech impediment. That would be fucking awesome.
She's like,
yeah.
Oh
and then
God.
like R2D2's following her while she's jogging around Octo, the island, just like the Russians were following Rocky.
Yeah,
and then towards the end of towards the end of the montage, she like fakes one way and then like fakes the other way, and then like R2 falls over and he loses her, and then she's just running because it's towards the end of the montage,
right?
And she's running all the way to the very top of the mountain, and then she shouts out Kylo like 4 times.
Like instead of just like, I'm out, I'm done.
Like they jumped the shark. They jumped the shark. Mark Hamill was right. He had no idea this was coming. He had no idea this was the direction they were going to take.
See the look on his face. He's just like, I don't like this. He's like shaking his head. Rian Johnson's like, come on, just go with it. This is awesome.
It's
great. It's like one of my favorite movies, mashed up together with this movie. He's like, we had a guest director, we had the Creed director.
Oh wait. What if like the final lightsaber? What if like the lightsaber battle between Luke and Kylo Ren on Octo is more like over the top? Because Rian Johnson's just not he's not only a
huge
Rocky
fan.
Yeah, he's just a huge Stallone fan. So before, you know how like Sylvester Stallone switches his hat from front to back?
Yeah.
Kylo Ren's going to do the same thing with his helmet.
I can't see out of this thing.
He's like, it's like a switch.
Yeah.
What are the Stallone movies are there that we can play here? What about
Judge
and
Dredd?
then
Ray's
and
like,
then
I am the law. Come on.
right. That's what Kylo Ren says because in this version he's Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, right.
Right, and then his mom comes, and then it's Carrie Fisher showing up. Right, it's General Leia showing up, like because again he's Kylo Ren, Sylvester Stallone. Now it's like don't stop or my mom will shoot.
She's a Stell Getty. Oh, God. I can just see Ryan just like all smiling. He's like, "This is gonna be
it's like
so
this is
awesome.
the best thing ever."
There's gonna be so many people coming to watch this movie. There's Stallone, like he interviews Stallone. They're like, "What'd you think?" He's like, "It was pretty good. I really like this movie."
The DCEU is like, "Oh man, Martha, guy, people are gonna love it, right?" And then Rian Johnson's like, "Hold my beer." I'll make the last Jedi fucking Rocky. I'll make it. I'll make it.
So like Kylo puts like a bandana around his head, and he's like,
"That's Rambo."
I gotta save Hux. He's a POW. I gotta go in there and get him out.
Oh my god!
He like
that would
rips his shirt off. He's just.
I don't
jacked.
I don't think I would be able to walk out of that movie. I think I would have to see it through to the end.
Because the thing is, if it was such a train wreck like that, you couldn't leave. You'd have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, it can't be in the middle.
Right,
Like, you
right.
can't see potential in the movie at all. Like, it can't be Justice League where you see potential. It has to be just a raging pile of shit. Like, 100% pile of shit.
The lights come up and everyone's
Like, even
baffled.
like even the opening crawl, it has like is spelled the way Sylvester Stallone will say it. And you're like, what's going on here?
Hey, we're trading Ray
Right.
on the Octo.
And there's like the opening montage. There's the opening montage like in Rocky 3, where he's just beating up a bunch of fucking guys.
Kylo's like, you're greedy and lazy.
Snoke is Mick.
Cut me, Mick. Cut me. Ray like beats the shit out of him. His eyes are all puffy.
Because you know how Mickey
Mick.
always wore that the yellow jacket.
Yeah,
well, Snoke is in that golden fucking yellow cloak.
Oh, he just needs a beanie.
Yeah, he does.